Hello, my dear Leos. You are on the Astrology of the Path channel, and today we are talking about March 2026, a month that becomes a point of inner and outer maturation for you. This is a time when life seems to test you for authenticity, where you act from the heart and where you act out of habit or under the pressure of expectations. March does not require haste, but it does require honesty, first of all with yourself. Leo is a sign of fire, strength, self-expression, and personal dignity. You are born to shine, to inspire, and to lead others. But in March 2026, the energy shifts. Instead of the bright stage, you will more often be invited behind the scenes of life, to the place where real questions of power, values, trust, and responsibility are decided. This month is not about demonstrating strength, but about becoming aware of it and using it correctly. Before we move on to the key dates of March, it is important to understand through which houses of the horoscope this month unfolds for you. March for Leos is a complex, multi-layered process that affects finances, worldview, career, and inner transformation. In March 2026, the 2nd, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 12th houses are active for Leos. The 2nd house is the house of personal resources, self-worth, and money. It shows what you rely on in life and what is truly valuable to you. In March, this house raises the theme of financial stability, self-esteem, and a sense of security. You may take a new look at your sources of income and understand where you have underestimated yourself and where, on the contrary, you have wasted your energy. The 8th house is the house of transformation, shared resources, debts, investments, and deep psychological processes. In March, it becomes a key house. This is a period of inner restructuring, when you have to let go of old fears, dependent connections, and control scenarios. A redistribution of finances, a revision of agreements, or deep conversations that change the essence of relationships is possible. The 9th house is connected with learning, worldview, long-term plans, and the search for meaning. March opens new ideas, philosophical reference points, and an understanding of where you want to move next. This is a month of expanding horizons through knowledge, travel, mentors, or inner insights. The 10th house is career, status, and social realization. It becomes active in the 2nd half of the month and requires maturity, responsibility, and clarity of goals. External events may push you toward important decisions that will affect your professional path in the coming months. The 12th house is the house of completion, silence, and inner cleansing. While Mercury is retrograde, this house helps you close old cycles, release past expectations, and restore inner balance. This is a time when it is important to hear yourself rather than external noise. Thus, March 2026 for Leos is a month of deep readjustment of values and life strategy. And now let us take a detailed look at the key dates of March 2026 for Leos. March 2. Mars changes sign and enters Pisces, activating your 8th house. From this day, the energetic background of the month noticeably changes. Mars shifts the focus from external activity to inner processes related to transformation, emotional depth, and shared resources. You may feel that the usual methods of pressure or direct action no longer work. Instead, life requires subtlety, sensitivity, and awareness. In the financial sphere, issues related to debts, joint investments, loans, or redistribution of funds are possible. Someone may remind you of old obligations or offer a form of cooperation that requires trust. On the emotional level, Mars in the 8th house intensifies passion, jealousy, hidden desires, and fears. This is a time when it is important to honestly admit to yourself what you truly feel and what you are afraid of losing. The practical advice for this day and for the entire period until early April is not to act impulsively and not to try to control situations through force. A strategy of soft but conscious influence will be much more effective. March 3. A lunar eclipse in Virgo affects your second house. This is one of the most significant days of the month. A lunar eclipse always sums things up and brings to light what can no longer remain hidden. In the second house, it raises themes of money, self-esteem, and personal values. On this day, or in the weeks that follow, you may encounter a situation that shows the real balance between how much you give and how much you receive in return. This may be connected to work, relationships, or your inner sense of self-worth. Unexpected expenses are possible, or on the contrary, an understanding of which expenses and attachments it is time to let go of. Emotionally, the day may be tense, as the eclipse touches the sense of security. It is important not to make hasty decisions, but to observe and record conclusions. This day sets a long-term direction in the theme of values for the coming months. March 5. A trine between the Sun and Jupiter. This is one of the most harmonious and supportive aspects of the month. After the tension of the eclipse, a feeling of inner light and perspective appears. You may receive confirmation that the chosen path makes sense, or hear words of support from an important person. Often on such days, good news, offers, or ideas arrive that inspire and restore faith in yourself. This influence is especially favorable in matters of learning, expanding horizons, and planning the future. It is important to pay attention to the thoughts and ideas that come on this day, as they may become the basis for further decisions. March 6. Venus changes sign and enters Aries, beginning its movement through your 9th house. From this day, the desire for freedom, movement, and new experiences increases. Venus in the 9th house awakens a craving for travel, learning, philosophical reflection, and the search for meaning. In relationships, there may be a desire to step beyond familiar boundaries. You may be attracted to people with a different worldview, another culture, or an unconventional outlook on life. This is a good period for creativity, travel planning, and education, but not for hasty promises or sharp decisions in personal life. March 7. The conjunction of the Sun with retrograde Mercury. This day seems to turn time backward. Old ideas, thoughts, conversations, and people return. You may unexpectedly remember a project that was once postponed, or receive a message from the past. This is a moment of rethinking. You should not rush to conclusions or actions. It is much more important to listen carefully, analyze, and draw conclusions. It is useful to keep notes, return to old plans, and look at them from the perspective of accumulated experience. March 8. Venus conjuncts Neptune. A very subtle and sensitive day. Romantic perception, intuition, and emotional sensitivity are heightened. On one hand, this is a wonderful time for inspiration, creativity, and spiritual practices. On the other hand, the risk of idealization and self-deception increases. In relationships, it is important not to attribute to a partner the qualities you want to see while ignoring reality. This day is suitable for art, music, meditation, and inner dialogue. March 9. A trine between retrograde Mercury and Jupiter. This aspect helps connect past experience with future opportunities. You may suddenly understand why certain events happened in your life. A good day for analysis, learning, writing texts, planning, and working with information. Decisions made today have long-term potential if they are based on awareness rather than emotions. March 13. The conjunction of Mars with the North Karmic lunar node, one of the most fateful days of the month. Mars connects with the point of the future in your 8th house. Events on this day may require courage, inner honesty, and readiness for change. This may be connected with finances, relationships, a psychological breakthrough, or an important conversation that changes the direction of development. Sometimes such days feel tense, but it is precisely they that launch processes leading to growth. It is important not to avoid responsibility and not to act out of fear. Everything that happens now has deep meaning for your further path. March 14, 15, and 16, a tense period. During these days, the risk of misunderstandings, emotional overload, and communication errors increases. Fatigue, irritability, and a sense of inner pressure are possible. It is better to slow down, avoid conflicts, and not make final decisions. This is a time when taking care of yourself is more important than external achievements. Rest, silence, and restoring energetic balance are beneficial. March 19, a new moon in Pisces in your 8th house. A very important reset point. A new moon in the 8th house opens a new cycle of deep transformations. This is a moment for intentions related to releasing fears, dependencies, and old emotional patterns. It is good to work with themes of trust, financial strategy, and psychological healing. Everything you consciously lay down now will develop gradually, but deeply and steadily. March 20, the Sun enters Aries, the day of the spring equinox. The astrological new year begins. For Leos, the 9th house becomes active. A sense of renewal appears, along with a desire to move forward and expand horizons. This is a day when it is important to ask yourself questions about meaning, goals, and direction of development. Internally, you are ready to think on a larger scale and look beyond current circumstances. March 21, Mercury goes direct. Communication gradually improves. It becomes easier to negotiate, make decisions, and formalize agreements. Everything that was revised during the retrograde period can now be gradually implemented. March 22, the conjunction of the Sun with Neptune. A day of subtle perception and heightened sensitivity. Intuition, imagination, and creativity are strengthened. It is good for spiritual practices, working with images of the future and inner dialogue. It is important to avoid illusions and maintain a connection with reality, especially in financial and professional matters. March 25, the conjunction of the Sun with Saturn. A moment of maturity and responsibility. You clearly see boundaries, resources, and real possibilities. This is a day when you can make balanced decisions, build long-term plans, and strengthen professional positions. The energy of Saturn helps bring order and structure where there was previously uncertainty. March 30. Venus enters Taurus, activating your 10th house. By the end of the month, a sense of stability and inner calm arrives. Pleasant events in your career, recognition of merits, or improved relations with management are possible. This is a sign that the inner work of March has borne fruit. You enter a new stage with a clearer understanding of your values and goals. March 2026 is a month of deep inner work and reassessment of values for Leos. External events will only reflect processes that have long been maturing within. In relationships, it is important to avoid extremes and illusions, choosing honesty and respect for boundaries. In the professional sphere, the month requires strategy, patience, and readiness for long-term decisions. Special attention should be paid to health and emotional state. Calm practices, sleep routine, and a conscious approach to workload are beneficial. Intuition will become your main ally if you learn to hear its signals. March teaches Leos the main thing. True strength is not pressure and not control, but awareness, maturity, and loyalty to your values. By the end of the month, you will feel inner renewal, clarity of goals, and readiness to move forward with a new level of self-understanding. Subscribe to the Astrology of the Path channel. Like the video if the horoscope resonated with you, and share in the comments what realizations March brought you. Your path continues, and we walk it together.